Welcome to VoteProPot-Cast, the award-winning cannabis news podcast brought to you by VoteProPot.com. Here are your hosts, Phil Adams, Jay Britton, and Andrew McCreadies.
Well, hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and folks across the country.
In the world, brother.
In the world, really, yeah. We are worldwide. We are the worldwide brothers
of weed.
Of weed. And we are glad to be with you, and we're glad you're with us today. Someone who is not with us today is our friend and colleague, Andrew. He is sitting this one out for medical reasons, but he will be back in 2 shakes of a branch of pot. So
2 shakes of a bud.
But he's with us in spirit, and we're very glad to be here with you. You know what, Jay? It didn't take really very long, did it? A week ago, you and I made the same prediction, and it's already in the can. Yeah. What did we predict, and what happened?
We predicted that the Senate race in Georgia would be a split. Right. It was not.
It was not a split.
The Dems took both.
It was a
seats.
Sweep.
It was a sweep. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about, and I think you did a story on it on We Talk News yesterday or Thursday. We're recording on Sunday, by the way, is I keep hearing people talking about, oh my God, this is so great for cannabis. Now, you know, it's going to be legal in a month because we've got the Senate, we've got the Dems have the Senate, the House, and the presidency. But, you know, that's really not at all the case, right? Because you've still got the filibuster. You still need 60 votes. It's 50-50. So they can get it out of committee with 50 votes, but you still got to get 60 votes to pass a law.
Right.
So
of course, I would have to say that the filibuster is not long for this world.
Well, that's a thing,
with this new Senate. They're going to dump that.
They can't. They need 60 votes to dump it, too. I don't think they can do it. I mean, not with a 50-50 split.
I hope you're right.
I think I just, you know, and I don't mean to be a buzzkill, so to speak, no pun intended, but these folks who are running around the internet going, it's a done deal, we're going to have legal, you know, we're going to be off Schedule 1 in a month. It's still an uphill battle. You know, and I think that's something we can kick back and forth.
And I think we'll watch that as the weeks go on. I would be surprised if there isn't a certain amount of Republican support for the MORE Act. There was in the House,
right?
And I think, and from some surprising quarters. I mean, some very staunch conservatives. Matt Gaetz comes to mind. He is a champion. He was one of the co-sponsors of the MORE Act.
Yeah.
So if that's true in the House, perhaps it's also true in the Senate. And maybe a filibuster on this particular issue will not come into play. That's and if that's the case, yes, we're looking at a pretty quick passage. But if you're right, and if it comes to a filibuster, you know, we may not be much further along than
it's
going to
be. It's going to be tight. You've got, you know, some middle of the road Democrats like, I mean, Manchin comes to mind in West Virginia. We're not sure exactly what he's going to do, and a few others.
I don't know what the hell is on that guy's mind.
Yeah, it's hard to figure him out. But you, like you said, you do have a few Republicans that might slide over to the other side on the MORE Act. Let's hope so. Here's the thing: the MORE Act, for those of you who haven't kept up with it, the primary, I think, the big nut in it is removal from Schedule 1, right?
Right. That's the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act.
Ooh, mouthful.
So
that's the biggie.
And we've reported on that enough that I pretty much have it memorized.
I think a lot of the other stuff in the bill, like it allows, as I recall, it allows physicians who are affiliated with the Veterans Administration to recommend it to patients, veterans who are in legal states, and does some stuff with banking and finance, and that's all great.
And expunging the records of simple possession.
I think they can get 10 Republicans to agree with that. The question is, can they get 10 or 11 or 12, depending on how many Democrats might defect, to agree to removal from from Schedule 1? You know, I think a lot of them would just like to dump that over to DEA and kind of not put it in legislation. So we'll see.
Right. We'll see. Now, speaking of which, on the DEA side of things, doesn't look any rosier, really, because the fella who Biden is set to pick, if by all accounts, to be the Attorney General is none other than Merrick Garland. Now, you guys might remember,
sound familiar?
Merrick Garland was the last Obama Supreme Court justice that that the nominee that Mitch McConnell scuttled, and he didn't get on, and Neil Gorsuch did, and now we have a 6-3 majority of conservatives on the Supreme Court. Now Merrick Garland is set to be nominated for Attorney General, and the Democrats are going to fall over themselves to confirm this guy.
Sure,
they feel like he was wronged, and
I think the Republicans will vote for him on committee too. I mean,
I don't think the Republicans are going to put up any roadblocks to any Supreme Court nominees unless they try packing the courts, and then
would be
we've
a
got to
different
fight.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there.
And that's another can of worms. But Merrick Garland has a judicial record on the appeals court, and it signals that he is likely to defer to the Drug Enforcement Administration when it comes to decisions about scheduling. Back in 2012, the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals panel heard a case, and the upshot of it was that they upheld the DEA's denial of a petition to reschedule cannabis. It was a suit brought by the Americans for Safe Access. It's a cannabis advocacy group. And Garland said of the DEA, he said, quote, "We're not scientists, they are." So his notion was they're the experts. We should let them make the decisions when it comes to federal cannabis policy. And it looks like, and Biden is not anxious to make major changes to federal cannabis policy, even though many in his own party are. So that's not a slam dunk either. We'll see how it plays out. Biden will probably end up, forgive me for saying so, knuckling under to the more powerful people in Washington.
That's been his history, yeah.
And he will go which way the wind blows, and it will happen eventually. But it doesn't look like it's necessarily a done deal on the executive branch side either.
Well, there's going to be some new pressures on him, Garland, as opposed to his previous position. So I don't know.
There will be pressure. There will be political pressure. There's not the same political pressure. Ideally speaking, there's no political pressure when it comes to the judicial branch. But
well, like we've said in previous episodes, the atmosphere has changed dramatically with respect to legalization just by means of COVID alone and the financial crisis that it's caused. Yep. And there's going to be a lot of pressure put upon this branch of government from legislators saying, we need to raise some money. We need to get some money back in the coffers, along with other things like you've pushed for so long, the whole
the criminal justice aspect. Yeah.
Yeah. Criminal justice. Yeah. I think that's going to have some merit on merit as well. Did you see what I did there?
I did. Merit on merit. Okay.
Sorry. All right.
What am I going to do? Where did we go wrong?
Got a study for you. You want to hear a study?
Yes.
Because we don't have enough studies.
I'm all about studies.
All right. This one here, I'm going to try not to be too obvious of my opinion of the study. So there's a new study out, and this is according to a website called slashgear.com, an article by Brittany Roston, and it's about a new study out of the University of Michigan Medicine, which claims that many of the people who partook in this study, which was really kind of based on survey data, experienced symptoms of withdrawal in between use of medical cannabis. They did say that about 10% of the participants reported negative effects from the substance, including changes in things like energy level, appetite, and sleep. So 10%, that's not too bad. But what the study claims is that many users have reported success with giving up narcotics and painkillers. That's a plus.
Good thing.
But on the other hand, they've had problems with withdrawal effects. Okay. What the study, it's based on, like I said, survey data collected over a 2-year period in Michigan by its college. And the study says that these folks experience things like craving for the substance, which is kind of arbitrary. I'm not even sure what that means, as well as things like irritability.
Maybe it just means they want to get high.
Yeah, what the fuck? Irritability, aggression, depression, lowered appetite, stomach pain, sweating, shaking, unusual dreams, and an increase in anger, along with other things. So
now this is withdrawal from cannabis.
This is people who use medical, or I shouldn't say medical, just use cannabis for a period of time and then stop. During the break between maybe starting again, they suffer these symptoms. So when splitting the marijuana users into different withdrawal severity categories, it was found that the sleep issues were the most commonly reported across the 3 groups. The researchers explained that patients who mistake withdrawal symptoms as part of their health condition may increase their use of medical cannabis, potentially making it harder to stop. I've been using cannabis for 45 years? I don't know. I'd have to do the math, for a long time. Right. And there have been periods in my life when I haven't touched it for ages, for a long period of time. Right. And there have been periods when I was younger when I would have a lot and use it over a period of a month and then not use it, not being able to get any for a period. I've never experienced this.
So you would probably be in the majority on that study, because we're talking about only a certain percentage of people, correct?
Well, the 10% were people who claimed they had issues while taking it. A relatively large percentage of the group claimed that they had this withdrawal thing. Now,
how large did they say?
It doesn't really get into the number of people.
The breakdown.
A substantial.
You'd have to get a copy of the study itself.
Yeah, I think so. So here would be my question.
Okay.
Who financed and funded the study?
That's the first question you should always ask.
Was it the pharmaceutical industry in some way, shape, or manner? I don't know. I don't mean to be so cynical.
Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do, Jay. One of us, and I think the one who isn't me, is going to take a look at the actual study.
Are you giving me homework? Jeez.
No, you don't have to do that. Maybe I'll do it. I think it'll be interesting. Idea. It's a good idea to break down the study, and the first thing we want to know is who funded the study, because you can get a study
to say anything you
to say whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
And these things are not as scientific as one might suppose all the time. Not to say anything bad about the University of Michigan, was it?
Yes. The University of Michigan Medicine.
University of Michigan Medicine. Not go blue. No, nothing to say anything bad about the Wolverines, but again, it's not always as dispassionate and objective as one might suppose.
Hell no, because you know what? These folks are constantly reaching out for grants to do funding. Studies,
right?
And
that's the reason for their reason for being.
And I don't mean to belittle these researchers, because that's
and nor do we want to shoot down every research study that we don't agree with.
And that's right. That's a good point.
Because this could be just perfectly legitimate stuff, and but it is worth asking the question.
I will do my homework. Anecdotally, just as a comparison, I personally have had experience with being on oxys. I have had a couple surgeries, and I have. At least in one case, I was on them for more than a couple of years.
Oh, wow.
And over that period of time, I would stop occasionally. These were prescribed, of course, but and I could tell you, man, it was just unbelievable. Unbelievable the issues that come about, there's sleeplessness, the sweats at night, the just overall depression. And trust me, it's horrible. I have no interest in doing those kind of drugs ever again, unless I absolutely have to after some kind of surgery, because the byproduct of taking these things, in my experience, outweighs the result of the medicine. Right. Just the freaking, not to be overly TMI, but constipation. It's horrible. It
is a common problem among opioid users.
I can tell you of times when I thought I was going to do an Elvis. It was like, my God, this is
too much.
This is and that would be the most embarrassing way to go. Do you know what Elvis's last words were?
I think it was probably, thank you very much.
No, he's turned to the Memphis Mafia and said, I'm going to go do a little reading.
A little. He died on the can, ladies and gentlemen. Let's call it what it is.
I'm sorry. Of all you Elvis lovers out there,
No, Abby, I don't think any Elvis lover doesn't know that about.
I think so.
About the king of rock and roll. He was great anyway.
Yep, that's right.
And frankly, I love Elvis music. So moving on. Turning back to the new Biden or incoming Biden administration, we have a possible pick for the AG that we talked about, but he also announced last week that he is going to nominate Rhode Island Governor Gina Raimondo for Commerce Secretary. If confirmed by the Senate, which is highly expected, she would be responsible for representing the business interests, the business community interests in promoting, whatever sectors and economic growth, etc. And now, while Biden may or may not be in favor of legalization himself, Gina Raimondo is coming to embrace the policy head on, but with kind of a twist. And you could almost see this coming. In the budget proposal last year in Rhode Island, Raimondo called for state-run regulatory model for cannabis.
Oh, boy.
That it's not just the regulation, but that the state would control, that the government would control the industry and would, quote, allow the state to control distribution, prevent youth consumption, protect public health. It's basically setting up for a government takeover of private cannabis industry.
California on steroids is what you're looking at.
Well, California nationalized, Exactly. They're going to work the same magic across the country that they did in California if they get their way. So
that's terrifying.
In November 2019, Raimondo described legalization as, quote, the next logical step after, the state medical cannabis program was passed. And that came after, apparently, and this is by an article by Kyle Jaeger from Marijuana Moment, great publication.
And he's a great writer.
He is very good. She also included legal cannabis in her budget, but admitted she'd never used marijuana, never smoked, never vaped, never did any of that stuff.
That's your problem.
Yeah. But she said, yes, I support the state-run model because from all the work we have done, it is the most controlled way to do it.
That's the key word.
And really, that should tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
It's all about control.
Centralized government.
Just when you thought we were striking a blow for individual liberty with cannabis legalization, we come to find out that the real goal here is to control.
Well, one of my deep felt hopes in all of this, me coming from a position of, I'm not going to say I'm a libertarian, but I'm very much for small government. I'm very much for personal freedom. And one of my hopes and goals in all of this is once Schedule I is done, once cannabis is removed from Schedule I and it becomes a consumer product, I'm hoping that certain states that tend to be more free market friendly, will allow for just that, the freedom of businesses to do their own thing with just minor typical regulations as you would require for safety, so, children packaging, those kind of things, testing. Yes, we need that. Beyond that, why in the hell does the government need to be in charge of every bud that comes through a facility and goes out on the market? It's crazy. Right. There's no need for it.
Regulation is one thing. And we're
reasonable
all for
regulation. Yeah.
Reasonable regulation. We want purity. We want safety. We want to keep the black market out of this.
We want to keep kids away from it.
We want to keep kids away from it. We want transparency in, advertising, if there is any, or just packaging. Right. Those things are fine. And the states can handle those just fine. Thank you very much.
Right.
But when it comes to who is managing this operation, the question becomes, in whom do you place your trust?
Yeah.
In the people who are in the business?
In the people who want to buy it.
and the people who want to buy it, or the people who are in the business of politics? Do you want economic decisions or do you want political decisions? And that's really what it comes down to. And politics can really obstruct and obscure industries where they stick their nose in, where they don't understand what's going on. And we've seen it over and over again. So I am for letting the people who know this industry, who got into this industry because they love it and they know it, to handle the management, the day-to-day operations of these things, and not operate at the whim of our overlords in D.C.
And it's also a contract for corruption.
Of course, it is. That's that
it's just allows the crony capitalism that you speak of so often, Phil. I mean, this is a prescription for that.
That it is.
It's exactly what it is. And you see it. I see it in my business of construction when I see government contracts, and I see who gets those contracts and how it works. And oh my God, if people could just see what happens when the government controls business of any kind, I don't care what it is, when they take control over business, and we're getting off in a tangent here, and we're sounding like a couple of right wingers, and I don't mean to. I'm just saying this scares me because it's going to hurt the little guy. The little mom and pop organization, the men and women who want to just start a little dispensary or grow a little weed and start a small business of having a craft bud of some sort or a beverage, and the amount of money they have to spend for permitting, and they're going to have to jump through hoops. It's terrifying. So
it's not a prescription for economic vitality, in my opinion, but we will see how it plays out, and we will report on it.
We certainly will.
It may not be as bad as all that, or we may be making a bigger deal out of this than it needs to be. We'll just have to see. A
lot of the alcohol and cigarettes, tobacco, and so forth are controlled, and to different degrees and by different states. The beauty of removing cannabis from the taking it off Schedule 1, is that it goes to the states, and the states can decide.
Yeah, I would rather have that.
Me too. Well, speaking of business, you want to hear some little business news? Yes.
Business news, all right.
Yeah, one of my favorite, and I think you like them too, The Motley Fool. It's a great website. They got a lot of cool stuff on there.
I check them out regularly.
I do too. And I get a lot of great tips from them. And so they published an article, Sean Williams over there, yesterday. I think this article came out on their website, and it lists the top 10 pot stocks of 2020. And this is interesting and helpful if you're looking to buy some stock in this segment in weed biz this year, because it gives you some kind of a comparison. So there's 8 of them. I'm going to start with number 8 and move to number 1. You mind if I do that? All right.
I would be thrilled.
And just by the way, a couple of these are in my personal portfolio. Thank you very much.
Very good. Very good. So you know whereof you speak.
I do. Number 8 is a company called Innovative Industrial Properties. Their stock was up 141% in 2020. Wow. Not too shabby. Yeah. They're a real estate investment firm. So they acquire and own properties that are used for cultivation and processing. And they're an MSO, which is a multi-state operator, so they have properties all over the place. They've done very well.
All right.
Number 7 is a company called Columbia Care. They're also a multi-state operator, and they are a company that has 76 operating dispensaries in 18 states.
Okay.
So they're all over the place, and they've acquired several businesses in different legal states.
Okay.
So they're up 143%. Number 6 is Green Thumb Industries. They're up 151%.
Man.
Now, this is an interesting business because they actually have a portfolio of branded cannabis products that they distribute to legal dispensaries around the country.
Okay.
You might have heard of some of them. They do like Bebo and Dog Walker. You've seen Dog Walkers?
Sure.
Dr. Solomon's Incredibles, Rhythm, and all those. So they have, I think they're located they have 13 manufacturing facilities and licenses for 96 retail locations and operations.
So that's a sizable operation.
Yeah, they're a big company. Number 5 is one of mine, True Leaf. True Leaf is up 100.
True Leaf I know about. Yep.
They're up 167%. Maybe what's a little different about True Leaf is they have focused on a single state, that being Florida.
Right.
They actually have a couple of dispensaries in other states, but they have a total of 75 operating dispensaries, and 70 of them are in Florida. And they
but they're in the retail.
They're in the retail
sector.
end, right? And they have done very well. Their stock's done great for me. I'm very happy with it. Planet 13 is number 4. They're up 186%.
Wow, I haven't not heard of Planet 13.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because what they are, you might have seen them online, or some of you listening may have. I tell you, if you haven't, go check out their website. They have a single store, one dispensary. But it's 112,000 square feet, and it's located on the Strip in Las Vegas. So it has just freaking boomed in the last year.
Well, location, right?
Exactly. I was in Vegas.
The right spot.
I was there a few months ago, and I did not get to go by there. I don't think they were even open yet. It was the very beginning of the year, about a year ago. But anyway, I would definitely look at this stock because they are now in the process of about to open another facility. It's a 40,000 square foot store that's in right outside of Disneyland, which I find hilarious.
In California.
Yes. You take the kids to Disneyland, the first thing you do is go hit Planet 13 and stock up.
Before you go to Disneyland.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And if you never make your way to Disneyland, oh well.
Well, if you do, those characters are pretty freaky. Let me tell you, Pluto can really make you crap your pants if he sneaks up on you. Number 3.
Okay. I'm gonna interrupt you and tell you a little story. When I was in high school, I was you remember I was a marching band geek.
Absolutely.
I played tenor saxophone in a high school marching band, and we had a really good band, and we got invited to march in the parade on Memorial Day in Disney World in Florida, in Orlando.
Yeah.
And so, we would put on our marching band uniforms and we marched through the center of Disney World playing This Land Is Your Land like 45 times in a row. And afterwards, we got to kind of go back behind the scenes because that's where our trailer was, where we could change into our civvies. Mm-hmm. And well, about 4 or 5 of us took a little detour, sat down in the woods, and started getting high. Uh-huh. All of a sudden, the choo-choo train with the plane came around, and we're still in our uniforms, and we had our instruments, so we hadn't gotten to the trailer yet, and we're like, oh God, we're busted. And someone said, quick, act mechanical. So we stood up and started acting like mechanical. People were pointing us and laughing at us. we got out of there unscathed.
So you're telling me that when I took my kids to Disney World and Disneyland back 25 years ago, all those marching bands and people on the things were all high as shit?
No, I'm not telling you that. I'm telling you that the 5 of us were.
Okay, that's better, I guess. Well, I think if you're going to be one of those little characters or something, you kind of have to be, right?
And let me tell you something. Space Mountain, when you're buzzed.
Oh, man, awesome. I've done it. Yeah, that's a trip. Awesome. That's very cool. Well, thank you for that little story, Mr. Adams. That was
all right. I just,
that was awesome. All right, number 3. Number 3 is Jushi Holdings, JUSHI Holdings. Check this stock out, Phil. Up 325%.
Get the fuck.
Man, I missed out on that one. Jushi is a bit different from most of the MSOs in that it's primary targeting limited licensing states. So it's limiting, states that have limited licenses. That like Virginia. Virginia is one of where I am, because they have a set number of licenses that are allowed,
right?
Which allows them to really focus on market share. Obviously,
now in Virginia, they're divided up among counties, right?
Well, it's not
or regions of the state.
It's 5 regions. Yeah.
Okay.
So these guys specialize in places like Pennsylvania, Virginia, Illinois, and that kind of thing. So I would definitely check them out. I mean, they're forecasting current sales between $205 and $255 million this year.
Wow. What is their price per share at this point?
It doesn't say in this report, but definitely check them out. They're on the OTC. It's JUSHF. Check them out. Number 2, we're getting close to the end here if you're getting bored. Number 2 is Terra Ascend. This stock is up 359%.
Man, good for them.
Yeah, man. Jeez. They have a presence in Pennsylvania, In the recently recreational legalized New Jersey, it's the Golden State of California that is driving its cash and stock results. It has a handful of dispensaries open in the high-income San Francisco area, so that's why. It's amazing when you look at some of these places, the difference in prices and stuff. For example, in Maryland, your gummies, you can buy a thing of them for $25 for 100 milligrams. And in Virginia, we have them now. It's $60 for the same thing.
Same damn cup.
And so if you go to San Francisco, you're going to be paying through the nose, I'm sure, like everything else in San Francisco. So we are now, drum roll, please. We are at our number one stock. Check this out. This stock is up 881% in a year.
All right. From 50 cents to
this is
$1.50.
It's called Grow Generation, which I was not familiar with. But you know what I think? I think I'm going to reach out and see if we can get somebody from their company on the show.
All right.
They specialize in hydroponic and organic gardening. It's a chain of stores that sells stuff for growing weed. Isn't that interesting?
Grows.
Yeah. 881% gain in a year is the highest return of anyone in the sector. And the company currently has 36 locations in 11 states, but has plans to push its operating store count to 50 in 15 states by the end of this year. So I think I'm going to check that stock out. If it doesn't look like it's too overinflated.
And tell me the name of it again.
It is called Grow Generation. It's on the NASDAQ, and its symbol is GRWG. I'm going to check that one out. Now, anybody listening, let's just make this perfectly clear. I am certainly not one to give advice on your portfolio. So this is strictly an article I'm reading. Don't write me when these take a dive in 4 months because you went out and bought them on my advice, right, Phil?
Yeah, we don't make financial advice.
I don't make much advice for anything.
We're just reporting on the news. Well, Jay, I have some very good information for you.
All right.
Some good news regarding the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Nice.
And you mentioned that state, and you mentioned home grows. Well, a bill to legalize cannabis for adult use has been filed in the Virginia General Assembly by a fellow with a fairly unusual name, Delegate Steve Heretic, which is almost kind of an apt name.
For a politician.
He introduced a bill which would allow adults 21 and older to purchase and possess up to an ounce of cannabis. It would also allow adults to grow up to 3 mature and 3 immature plants for personal use.
I love it. Yep.
So that's a good thing. And Heretic said, quote, "This bill is built upon the lessons of other states throughout the country which have enacted similar reforms." So he's, doing what a lot of states are smartly doing, and that is to, learn the lessons from what other states have done and where they've tried and failed. And I think this goes to a lot of what our buddy Andrew was talking about. Is cannabis really legal if you can't grow it yourself? It's a debate worth having, but I don't know what's going to happen to this bill in the General Assembly, but it's in there. And folks in the Commonwealth of Virginia, find out about this. Check out whoever your state delegate is or state senator is. Send your comments to the governor. Get involved with this because this could be a very good bill if it shakes out the way it seems to on the surface. So, and we got to read the bill, and if we get more information on this, and we'll keep following this and tracking it. But it's a positive step because it didn't take very long from medical to somebody introducing adult use, and that's a good thing.
I follow the obviously Virginia NORML pretty closely, and we've had Jen Michelle Padini on the show. She's the executive director, and she's incredibly knowledgeable, and she's an amazing lobbyist. She's gotten so much done in Virginia over the past couple of years. And we've got Ralph Northam as a governor who, for whatever you think about Ralph, he's very pro-cannabis. And I think, like I made my prediction last week for 2021, I think this is a year you're going to see a lot change in Virginia.
Well, folks, that's all the news we've got for today. And juicy personal stories and that kind of stuff. We want to hear your stories. If you have anything interesting to tell us, if you have any questions, any comments, anything we might have left out or gotten wrong, you can help us out, fill us in. Go to VoteProPot.com, send us a comment, go on to Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating, and by all means, if you have a friend or a loved one or somebody you know who enjoys this kind of talk, turn them on to VoteProPot-Cast. I think they would like it, and it would cement your friendship. You know, we're in the business of, making and keeping friends. So what else, Jay?
Send us an email at podcast@votepropot.com, and we have a message line, 240-257-2441. Give us a call. Give us some tips. Tell us what you think. Yeah, man.
And of course, as always, we have lots more information to impart to you that we just can't get to in the brief time we have on our podcast. Go seek us out on social networking. Go to Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. And as our friend Andrew likes to say, do a search for VoteProPot.